If you like this channel and what I do here, please help to support my work by checking out one of my books, available from Lulu Publishing and Amazon.com. Thank you.
Oh boy. Hi folks, Carl James here from Electric Media Madness, joined today by Dan Ryan. How you doing, mate?
Hello, I'm good.
Good. We've just watched a classic, the pilot episode of a classic series from the 1980s, fondly remembered by many people. Quantum Leap, the episode Genesis, the pilot episode. You've never seen Quantum Leap at all before?
Oh, I am a Quantum Leap virgin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while actually since I've watched any episodes of it, but I watched it to death when I was young. It's a classic show. It really is. And the premise is very simple and straightforward. It's about a man who's a bit of a genius, really, and he invents a way to travel through time, and he does it, but he gets stuck. And that's basically it. That's the premise of the story. He's stuck, comes unstuck in time. Basically, he's leaping, as they call it, leaping into other people's lives. As the opening narration of the episode's proper when it gets going says, striving to put right what once went wrong, and hoping the next leap will be his leap home.
Yeah.
And that basically is the theme of the series. Then is that something external to them and their project is leaping Sam around in time, Sam Beckett, the main character, played by Scott Bakula, and altering history in little ways. It's not big historical things, it's just, although generally that was the rule of the series, but they did kind of break that a little bit towards the end. They started interfering with bigger things, but by and large it's just him being involved in people's lives and mistakes that were made, accidents that happened, people that died that shouldn't have, and things like that, and he's charged with putting it right. And gradually as the series, and there isn't, it's pretty much a standalone series for stories, but there is a vague, loose story arc to the story, which I will talk about now that you've watched the pilot episode. Is this idea that something, which they allude to possibly being like a god type thing or something like that, that's controlling his leaps. And in the final episode of the series, he comes face to face with that, whatever that thing is that's leaping him around, and the series ends on a cliffhanger, which is very unfortunate because the series never got resolved. But it's an amazing series for a number of reasons. It's very easy to watch. It's great science fiction, and it's very thought-provoking. The stories are really good. The acting is great in it. The two principal characters, Dean Stockwell and Scott Bakula. Dean Stockwell plays Al Calavici, a hologram of one of his team from the future, who's only Sam can see him and hear him. Nobody else can see him and hear him. Although that rule does get broken as the series goes on a little bit, because you find out that people who have got, let's say, mental health problems can see him and hear him. Little children under a certain age can see him and hear him, and certain dogs and animals can see and hear him. So they kind of break that rule a little bit as it goes on. So they tweak the idea of the story, but there are some great themes running through the series about Sam's life, his relationship with his family. There's also some themes about Al and the very first, the woman that he loved, his true love, who's trying to interfere with changing history, and that creates a bit of a story arc in the series as well. We also encounter some other leapers later in the series as well, which adds a real sort of rich mythology to the series as well. So it's not just Sam that's leaping around in time. Eventually we find out. So I hope I've teased it enough there for those people that have not seen it before. If you haven't, go away and check it out. It's a great show. What did you think of it then? So I've ratted enough. But
it was a bit weird because I've previously watched a show which is basically a rip-off of Quantum.
Really?
That Journeyman thing?
Oh, Journeyman, yeah. Journeyman is very, very similar.
It's a bit of a rip-off of Quantum.
Very similar show,
So it's a bit weird watching a rip-off of a show.
Yeah.
And then watching the actual show.
The original thing. Yeah. What's interesting, actually, is that, a bit of trivia here for people who may not know, is that the main showrunner on Quantum Leap was Donald P. Bellisario, And Donna Belisario worked on the original Battlestar Galactica from the late 70s. It was a show that was basically run by Glenn Larson, but Donna Belisario wrote quite a few of the episodes. And one of the episodes he wrote was an episode called Experiment in Terror. And in the story, Apollo is tasked by one of these angels, for want of a way of putting it, because they're the same ones that we see in the remake of Battlestar, like the angels that sort of oversee everything. He's sent to this planet to try and prevent a nuclear war from happening on this planet. And this angel gives him the appearance of somebody else, that everybody else sees him as this different person. And when he looks in the mirror, he sees the version of himself and all that. And also the angel, only Apollo can see him and nobody else can see him. So it's been freely admitted that is he ripped his own idea off from an episode of the original Battlestar Galactica. Yeah. And you watch that episode and it's uncanny. It really is uncanny how much of the original idea for Quantum Leap came from that episode of Battlestar Galactica. And there probably have been other stories in science fiction where there's been a time traveller that other people can... I don't know any of them off the top of my head. If there's anybody in the comments wants to tell me, let me know. But I'd really appreciate that, because it'd be fascinating to find out whether there has been anything in literary science fiction. I can't recall anything in film or television quite like it. But yes, so carry on anyway.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it a lot. Because it's a pilot, so you obviously know that, you know, whatever he's going through, he's going to survive it and get out fine. But
on an episode basis, yeah.
But there was still a lot of suspense there. It's like, is he gonna blow up in the like flying or not?
Yeah. Because it's interesting, because Al says to him, one of the ways in which he could potentially get back was if his brain froze, which is like death. Yeah. So you think there's a possibility that he might die, and that would cause him to leave. Not necessarily go home, because it's only the first episode, but that could cause him to trigger the leap and go into somebody else, sort of thing. But you see a couple of leaps, don't you, in that first episode? You see three. You see the setup for the next episode at the very end. So he starts out as Tom Stratton, the test pilot, and you understand that he's there to fly the X2 at Mach 3 and survive it, basically. But it turns out that he wasn't there really to do that. He was there to help his wife deliver because she's pregnant with their baby.
For him and the baby and her, all of them to survive.
And then he leaps into a baseball player who has to basically win the game. You know he's going to win the game. You know, I mean, it's the type of television. It's cheesy television in some respects, but that's a good test, actually, of whether something works or not. Even if it's a foregone conclusion what's going to happen, you can see it coming a mile away. But if it still holds your interest, like you say, then that's the mark of something that works, isn't it? Yeah. So what did you think of the two principals, the two actors? I mean, you're familiar with Scott Bakula because you've seen Enterprise.
Well, the pilot.
And you're familiar with Dean Stockwell, obviously, because he was in the remake of Battlestar Galactica as one of the Cylons, Brother Cavill. So what did you think of the characters? And
I know, like, you can see from the pilot that, like, they've already fit the roles well. There's some good, like, banter between them as well, and Al's sort of lecherous ways, which probably is not very politically correct nowadays in television programs, but they have good chemistry together,
they do,
immediately.
And what's interesting as well is that there's an episode in the first season of Enterprise where Dean Stockwell plays an alien chap, and they're in they have like a mini reunion, and so that was a nice one. They got back together again just to do something in one episode. I think the character was meant to come back again for some reason, but it never happened in Enterprise. So, but yeah, it's a good, very well written story, and there's some real sort of like tugging on the emotional heartstrings there. Personally, for me, having lost my dad, you know, the moment where he finds out his surname, so that he can ring to the town where his dad lives. By the time his dad's passed away, but in this time period, his dad's still alive, so he's able to ring his dad up, and he pretends to be his cousin, is it, or something like that, from Australia or something.
It's
like
his brother's
his brother's son. Yeah. So that he doesn't get found out that it's, but yeah, he gets a chance to speak to his dad again, after his dad's passed on. So it's things like that which are really great, and that's something that Quantum Leap was always really, really good at doing. And more importantly as well, if we ever do get around to doing any more reviews of Quantum Leap, would be great, because I'd love you to see some of these episodes. But I hold Quantum Leap up as with the likes of like Star Trek and stuff like that, for being able to present morality plays, social issues, challenging people's perceptions of the world in a way that is very thoughtful, not bashing you over the head like certain shows do nowadays. They've done some Quantum Leap did some fantastic episodes about black people in America during the 50s and 60s, and closeted homosexual people, and women's rights, and all kinds of issues, throughout the series. Always done in a very thoughtful, very thought-provoking, clever way, presenting every perception of the arguments and all that, but clearly making you understand that to treat people like shit is wrong. But doing it in a way that's not like
that makes you come to that conclusion.
Yeah, it comes to it naturally without having to be preached at. Yeah. And Quantum Leap I think is probably one of the best examples of a television program that's ever done that. Star Trek also was another good example. But it's really one of those shows that if you want to show people how it should be done, educating people and stimulating people to think about things bigger than themselves, then Quantum Leap is a great show to revisit, and there's not really much else that I wanted, because as we say, we've only watched the pilot. Some cheesy special effects for the time.
The start is very like the first couple of minutes. It's like, ooh, okay.
And all the stock footage of the military stuff with the X2 and all that,
That bit wasn't too bad. I'll let that pass. Some of the stuff at the start, you were like, ooh.
Was like, and those earrings with the little LED lights in them flashing. It's really
okay.
Of the time, isn't it? Of the 80s, but so things like that. Another thing worth mentioning about Quantum Leap as well is, and it became something of an issue actually when it was brought out on home media, because Quantum Leap has some great music in the series. They use a lot of music you don't get a sense of that in the pilot. It's only just a smattering of songs, but as it went on, you hear a lot of music from the period that he's in for that particular episode. And they've kind of played it fast and loose, only getting rights for the songs to be for broadcast on television. But of course, when it came time for Quantum Leap to be released on video, they couldn't get the rights for the songs. So I think there was only ever about 8 or 10 episodes that were brought out. Random episodes were brought out on video cassette, which I had. And there was never going to be a release on VHS, because they said we can't afford the rights to all these songs. So when the DVD box set came out, that one there, they changed some of the songs in the episodes to songs that were cheaper to get the rights to. They kept some in, quite a few in actually. As I understand it, I don't know, but as I understand it, the Blu-ray version has got all the original. It's back to the proper.
So that's like the proper version of it.
Proper version of it, yeah. But there are a few differences in some of the songs, which is interesting for me, because I had all the episodes recorded off television at the time they were broadcast, and when I compared them, my memory of a lot of these episodes is very good, so I know what songs were used. And when I came to watch them on DVD, I was thinking, that's not the right song, what's going on, But yeah, so we often talk, don't we, about how music is used well in TV shows and films, and Quantum Leap is a very good example. It plays on the whole nostalgia thing, back in the 80s there was a big thing about 50s and 60s stuff. It was a resurgence of that, and even the episodes where stuff takes place in the 70s and the 80s and that, you get some great music. I remember there's an episode from the second season, I think it is, which Sam plays a mom to these kids, and it's all like you got Blondie and Queen and stuff like that from the 80s and everything. So it's great stuff, really good music in some of the episodes. So it would be great if we do get around to watching some more.
I would like to after
a later
watching
date,
that.
because I think you'd enjoy it. I think there's two great things going for Quantum Leap. One is the morality tales, social commentary episodes. There's some fantastic ones. There's I'm trying to think of the title of the episode. There's a great episode from the first season where Sam leaps into a black guy. There's several episodes like that in the series. And there's an episode right at the beginning of season 2 where he leaps into a woman who's like being basically sexually harassed by a boss in the workplace during the 50s, I think. No, possibly the 60s actually. So there's some really good episodes. There's an episode from season 2 where he leaps into a young man with Down syndrome. And how he's like challenging the system because his brother gets him a job to work for him at a shipping yard sort of thing. And he has to, and they're calling him dummy and everything, all that, and he has to prove that he can do what anybody else can do, whether able or whatever, disabled or whatever. Great episode. It's called Jimmy. It's a fantastic episode, really good episode. And then you've got some really loosely story arc. Look, there's like the Leap Home Part 1 and 2 in season 3. MIA, which is the precursor to that episode as well at the end of season 2, sets up a great story arc with Al's wife Beth. He never got to go because he's basically a prisoner of war in Vietnam, and when he went home, Beth had remarried and he never had the chance to, and he tried so hard to get the message back to her that he was alive, he was just being a prisoner of war and he was going to be released soon, and to hang on for him basically. And that story runs right through to the end of the series, into the very final episode actually of the series, and then like I say, there's other leapers as well later in the series and things like that, and there's an episode where Al leaps as well, and Sam gets to go home briefly and he gets all of his memories back again, but then he ends up, the only way to get Al back is for Sam to have to leap again, which brings Al back home, but it leaves Sam adrift in time again, and he's forgotten everything. That he finds out that he's married and he's got a wife and that at home and everything. So fantastic stuff to look forward to in that sort of aspects of the series as well. And there's an episode where he leaps into Elvis as well, and there's an episode where he tries to prevent Marilyn Monroe from dying, and later in the series there's an episode where he's leaps into this old guy who's been had alien encounters, UFO encounters, and that he has to prove that he's not mad, and there's even an episode where he possibly may have leapt into a vampire as well later in the series, so it goes out there a bit. Yeah, it really does go out there. But some really grounded stories as well, some really proper little homespun interest stuff. And one thing you could never fault Quantum Leap for was its ability to write good drama, good stories, and make you think as well. And it's a brilliant series, really is. So I do hope that we, like I say, this was just going to be a little short video anyway for this one, but hopefully we will.
I do want to watch some more of it.
Yeah. So that's something for people to look forward to. So, is there anything else you wanted to say about it before we rate it? I mean,
it's briefly touched on what you said earlier about the phone call and that, but throughout the episode, you just it builds up a lot of emotion for him in quite a short time. Yeah, I mean the episode's only it's an hour and 20 minutes ish. Yeah. And I guess that's almost a movie length, but to set up a series, it does it really well.
Yeah, because you and I have talked quite a lot about series and making likeable characters from the get-go, establishing world building, establishing the premise, all that kind of thing, and it's rare that a series gets that right in the first one.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often. Sometimes it'll take quite a while, but to make you those characters to be likeable, to feel for them, to feel their plight, what they and all that in just an hour, 20 minutes, an hour. It's good going. A lesson there for people who write stuff today to learn something from.
They won't listen.
No, they won't listen. Anybody who does watch this has never watched the show before, please go and check it out. It's worth a watch. There really are some real gems of science fiction fantasy. It's loosely science fiction. It's not overly complicated like you say, but it's it's got that cliche of being the episode of the week kind of thing that was very prominent, I suppose, in that period in time. So, yeah, do you want to rate it out of 10?
Oh no, I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure. Maybe like 8 to 8.5. Okay. I really did enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8. Yeah, yeah, it's a good, solid episode. Really, really good.
Yeah,
yeah, it really sets the tone for what's to come, and you know where you are with it right from the get go, and you think, yeah, these are likeable characters. These are characters that I could watch, other episodes with. Yeah. So I think we'll leave it there for now, and we'll just say thank you very much for watching this video, and keep on leaping, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon for another video. Take care.
Bye.